such a Jiva now is clear to us. Who is this Jiva? Sa eva Jiva avidya upadhi san atma Jiva iti uchyate. So, how is this notion coming that Ishvara is separate from me? This Jiva who's identified with him is got avidya upadhi. Maya upadhi san Ishvara iti uchyate. Ishvara is called Ishvara because of Maya upadhi. What is upadhi? If you remember, upa, he. When in close association with something, one gets the reflection of one on the other. If wherever it is getting the reflection has the characteristic to reflect. Now, this you can forget a lot of details of this diagram, but just for its own sake to explain. Ishvara is Maya Upadhi. So Brahman and Maya component is called Ishwar. So what is the Upadhi? Maya is the Upadhi. Where there is Maya Upadhi, Brahman is called Ishwar. Brahman by itself, Nirgun. Brahman by itself, changeless. Brahman by itself, Nityam, Vibhum, Sarvagatam, Sarvatram. Ever there. By itself, there is, if you just see Brahman by itself, anybody can answer. If you just see Brahman as Brahman, complete the sentence. What happens to all of this portion?
All disappears.
None of this is there because Brahman is Nirgun and Nirakar, and therefore there is nothing.
Excellent. Perfect. You get the answer. So, none of this is there. There's no creation. Brahman seen from Brahman Drishti. There is no creation. There is no evolution. There is no matter. But from our Drishti, who's already seeing ourselves as Jiva Uchyate. I call myself as Jiva and I call myself as separate from Ishvara and I call myself as someone having consciousness within me. Very important component. I say Ishvara is separate from me and I also say consciousness is within me. Such a person is now in a creation. He is a created being. He is now part of creation. Therefore, if you remove Maya from the top line, then is Ishvara there? No. Excellent. So what is the whole portion that has come up over here is presupposing Brahman's inherent latent capacities, potential for creation which gets ignited at the time of creation, which was called Maya. So Maya Upadhi, keeping Maya as the, I don't know what the right translation for Upadhi is. Upadhi is, we call body the Upadhi, we call mind the Upadhi, whatever it is in association with.
Can we say quality, Diti ji?
Not a quality. Upadhi is not a quality.
Power.
Would it be a vehicle?
The vehicle would be a closer one. Something that is becoming an instrument, let's say an instrument, which works like an instrument. Its self-presence is what is important. So with that, Upadhi, Maya Upadhi is Ishwar. And what about the Jiva? And therefore Ishwar now further we said are all the Devtas, etc. And Avidya Upadhi san. Atma jiva uchyate. Maya upadhi san. Ishwar uchyate is clear. This jiva is calling himself as jiva in identification with the body. And what makes him say that? What is that upadhi? That karana sharir being the cause, or this is where your question was to be answered. That is in the form of avidya. Avidya is that upadhi which is bringing the creation of the individual. As if the individuality is formed with avidya, upadhi. So, evam, in this manner, upadhi bhedat, jiva ishvara bheda drishtihi yavat paryantam tishtati, tavat paryantam janma marana adi rupa samsaraha na nivartate. Evam, in this manner, as long as the jiva drishti is there, which sees itself as separate from Ishvara, which means the upadhi bhedas are different. On one hand, there is avidya upadhi, over there is maya upadhi, but avidya being the upadhi which keeps the maya there also. Avidya is the main upadhi with which the whole identity is formed, which is now saying the world is separate from me, God is separate from me, etc., etc. This upadhi bhedat, jiva ishvara bheda drishtihi. Because of the upadhi difference, jiva and ishvara difference is seen. Yavat paryantam, jab tak. Paryantam means till whenever. There is no end to it. Whenever it ends, jab tak hai tab tak, till it stays, tishtati, yavat paryantam, till the very time that it remains, till it remains, what? Upadhi bhedat. Till this remains, tavat, till then, tavat paryantam, till that time, janma marana adi rupa samsaraha. This samsara, which is characterized by janma, marana, nature of birth and death. The samsara whose nature is birth and death, and you can add dukham. Because birth and death is dukharupam. Nature of birth and death, cycle of birth and death, na nivartate. It is not withdrawn. It doesn't go away. It doesn't end. So what is actually the causation now you see? As long as avidya upadhi is there, which gives rise to jiva buddhi, jiva drishti, and Ishvara is seen separate from himself, and Ishvara has a maya upadhi, so Ishvara has a full potential, because maya in that level has trigunatmika, but in that trigunatmika, the rajas and the tamasic components are minimally expressed. Almost all of it is sattvic content. That is Ishvara. So Ishvara becomes Sarvajna, Sarvavid, everything that you can add on. Ishvara has full potential, unlimited. So you can impose on Ishvara all those limitlessness and then pray. So it's almost like saying, where will I get my pail of water from for my washing my vessels at home, if in those days villages? From
the ocean, Diptiji, in that sense.
From the ocean, from the river. I'll only draw my pail of water where there is a larger body. So Ishvara is that large body, having everything. I can draw my pail of water from there whenever I want, if I want. Or I need not draw anything. I can just worship. I can just recognize the river. I can just recognize the ocean. I can just see its magnitude and be in awe of it. Be in joy of seeing the full expression that Ishvara can can be seen as. I can just be with it, which will be a worship. Even as long as I see the upadhi bheda, this is very important. The upadhi is now here in jiva context avidya. And as very rightly your question said, is it another matter? Because if it was matter, then it would have been difficult to remove it. Avidya, ignorance. Because matter means it will only transform. You can keep transforming it, and hope at some point of time it will now become mukti. You don't know what you will do. So all yoga school, most of it, samadhi is as if one of those aspects where you would say, I will transform to such an extent the mind, which is made of matter, that I make it absolutely fluid, means light. I make it transparent by removing all the malas from my mind. All practices would help for that. So, upadhi bheda jiva ishvara bheda drishti yavat paryantam tishtati tavat paryantam. This samsara in the form of janma and marana cannot be put to an end. That means the cycle of punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam is dependent on avidya. Avidya is the cause of punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, and sansara, I said, include dukkha in it. So punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, dukkha drishti, dukkhalaya. Shastra calls creation as dukkhalaya. Another way it says, what is the creation? Dukkhalaya. It is nothing but a abode of dukh. Nyayalaya, Chikitsalaya, Dukkhalaya. This is means even if you get any amount of happiness that you have, and this is a very beautiful, that is why Vairagya sets in. However much you may imagine happiness to be there, it is interspersed with dukh. There is no pure joy. There is nothing like pure joy. There is nothing like pure happiness if avidya is still the upadhi and you see yourself as a jiva. With jiva drishti, sukh can never be experienced in exclusiveness without some dukh with it. Not possible. This itself makes you a great Vedantin because you don't expect things to improve over here. So when happiness goes also, then you know what is waiting round the corner is absence of happiness. So when there is a lot of absence of happiness, you know, you don't get sucked into it because you know what is waiting round the corner is some presence of happiness, because they are going to be one more than the other, but both of them are actually two sides of the coin which come together. You can't have one without the other. So as long as there is a upadhi bheda and you see the jiva ishvara drishti is because of the upadhi bheda, it is there. Tavat paryantam, this samsara does not dissolve. Tasmat, therefore, now the equation is getting concluded. The whole topic is getting concluded. Tasmat, therefore, now the author has put his arguments forward, has shown the whole prakriya. He says, Tasmat karana, therefore, for this reason. What reason?
Avidya.
That
Avidya and upadhi.
the fact that you'll be stuck in samsara.
Absolutely. The fact that you are stuck in samsara. Excellent. The fact, traffic jam. You are stuck in a traffic jam. You cannot go forward, you cannot go backwards. It will just move as it is moving and you will be helplessly only move absolutely in a circle. This is correct. Just taking different from avidya, you will only have external different upadhis. Body is an upadhi. This, as long as it is, this difference is there, for that karan that you are stuck in samsara, jiva ishvara bheda buddhihi na svikarya is not acceptable. This karanat is double na. One na is the karanat, due to this current. Na swikarya. It's not acceptable. What is not acceptable? Jiva Ishvara Bheda Buddhi. So any upasana done with Bheda upasana, now that's also part of your answer further, connected to your question at least. Any upasana done with Bheda Drishti, what can it maximum give you?
Little bit of joy, that's it.
It will give you some relief. If you need the relief in samsara, because samsara is a dukhalaya, you will need some relief here and there, beech mein. That's okay. But you understand very clearly that if upasana is with bheda buddhi, it surely is not going to end my samsara nivritti. It will not give me samsara nivritti. So unless until there is jiva ishvara abheda buddhi, which means what? And that's the very beautiful question he now comes to, but he presents it in the sense of the student. From the student's standpoint, he presents. And of course, we'll take this tomorrow. But student is now, say, asking, means any one of us is asking a question here. This kind of makes it very difficult to accept that Jiva and Ishvara can ever be reconciled. For the simple reason, Jiva is a limited entity. Ishvara, you yourself have said, is the limitless entity. How can these two ever be connected? Logical question. How can you have abhedata? Means there will always be a bhed between less and more. So, where is the abhedata possible? And then starts now the Mahavakya part of it. So, avidya is the upadhi, the cause of samsara. Its nivritti now is where he's starting the teaching again by showing that Ishvara is that Tvam-pada. What is that upadhi? And Jiva is the Tat-pada. What is the upadhi? What is the source of this Jiva? Who's calling himself Jiva? And when you equate the two, both that Brahman has been continuing throughout. So abheda between these two from Brahma Drishti. The minute you get Brahma Drishti, avidya is gone. And avidya gone means bheda drishti gone, samsara gone. This will continue tomorrow. From the here we'll continue tomorrow. Just end the class. Anybody wants to chant invocation?
I can chant it. Sarvesham lam bhavatu sarve bhavantu sukhinah sarve santu niramayah sarve prani pashyantu ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhave स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः शान्ति
And yes, we are officially 1 year old for this class. So we'll see you tomorrow.
Deepti ji, I have a question.
Is there a
Yeah.
button that all humans have, which probably, if you switch on, you may have access to unlimited power that a human being does not realize or does not want to get to that extent?
I would say that button is your jignasa. If the jignasa button is pressed, what is jignasa? Means jignasa to know the truth. If that is kept pressed, and I mean it pressed, not like pressed for a short seasonal press. If it's pressed and it's not necessary that you get the answer straight away, it may take janmas sometimes. But that is the only button which helps you tap into the truth. Because all of us do have jignasa, but we all reconcile at some point of time as we keep growing older. But in spite of life and its activities, if the jignasa is kept alive and that button is kept pressed, and anything you do, everything that you do, must get related to the truth, to Brahman. To knowing it, to knowing the facts, to knowing truth. Other than that, there is no button. Other than every button you press will give you some relief somewhere. And I wish there was some button like that. Many
No, I
people
was
have
just
in the
trying to
past
think
wished.
of how can human go to that extent of God, right? So there has to be some way, and I think you said it correctly, that the way has to be through, wanting that the urge to know the truth. That can only lead to that probably reconciliation between you and your.
Correct. Otherwise, karma offers you Indra Padvi, a highly difficult Vedic karma. If you do it exactly as it is, you'll press the button of Indralok. You'll be
What
transferred
does
by a
that
high
mean?
speed elevator, very high speed,
What does
not
that mean?
higher than what goes to Burj Khalifa. You will go straight to Indralok. But for that, just as you work very hard to get something in Burj Khalifa, you'll have to work billion times harder to do those karmas, Vedic karmas. Then maximum you get is Indra Padvi. And Indra has a very long existence. So as long as this Manvantra continues, same Indra continues. But he also dies at the end of this, and the new Indra comes, new Brahmaji comes, new Shivaji comes. So all of them are new bodies after that. So there's no point in aspiring for that kind of a um, what we call it is still a bondage with a great magnitude.
Deepti ji,
Hmm?
um, when we do samadhi meditation, for that short period of time, if you feel that oneness, uh, you kind of carry it with you for a while, and then through the day, you kind of sometimes lose it from time to time. And is that the beginning of the
Yes,
switching on?
you can say it is a bit, not a switching on is not what I would say. Uh, well, if you want to see it that way, also no harm. But yeah, it does happen that you will get some sort of a temporary vision, but unless and until it is resolving your identity in it,
That's the hard part.
that's the part. Hard or not doesn't matter. That's the only part. So as long as I can continue worshipping Ishvara, and then at some point of time I find a oneness because of devotion and all that, and if that is dissolved away or corrected away or dissolved your ignorance with reference to who you are, it will be there it's a different experience. And many experiences are possible. This is one of those experiences. So nobody denies the Samadhi Avastha. It is one of the experiences.
Dipti ji, even what they say that Kundalini unfolding and all that, वो भी तो उसके लिए भी you're like you said that you have to be able to dissolve. If you don't dissolve, then there's no point in that. Is that right?
So these are all based in karma realm. That's why they don't get associated Vedanta at all. In creation, you have many such things. They'll have some help. But certain things may take away the fulcrum of your existence. You should be very, very sure of doing what you're doing. Otherwise, I think in creation, I personally feel Vedanta is the safest. कुछ है ही नहीं ambiguous. You just can't go wrong.
So is Samadhi meditation part of Vedanta or no?
No, it's part of yoga.
Okay. But it does make you, just be.
Yeah. So that's okay. Yoga can make you just be. No harm in that. But will it be which will remove your samsara? Question should be that. Does it destroy your samsara? Permanently.
No, not permanently, because your mind
That's
takes
the only
over.
difference.
Yeah.
That's the difference between Vedanta and everything else. That here the emphasis is not so much on doing to get something. It is actually understanding that whatever you are doing is in the realms of futility. Nothing is lasting. So better to know yourself, use the same opportunities of life that we have now. Not that even this is going to be easy. Just Vedanta Shravanam will not help it also. So we can take the help of Samadhi meditation, but with the knowledge that this is not the absolute answer. But it's not useless.
Yeah. It's a path.
It's not useless is all I will say. It's a separate path, but not a useless path.
Yeah.
And you're developing yourself at the end of the day. So where's the harm?
Yeah.
It comes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry?
No, I said it comes. No, I was just saying that with the knowledge that we're gaining in Vedanta, questioning yourself, and that's one aspect of it. And then different forms of meditation or whatever is a way of experiencing or perceiving it, and then hopefully somewhere some switch will come on.
Actually, that question is I should have snubbed it in the beginning. Sorry, Divya. I allowed that question to set forth. There is no switch. Let's not be in delusion. If you wait for a switch, it's waste of time. There is no hope of a switch which will switch on something great. The path is clear, and that path is the switch. Is that fine?
Yeah.
I hope the message is clear. It doesn't mean that obviously we are ourselves doing meditations.
Yeah.
So meditations are helpful, but if you are going to look at samadhi as the final point of mukti, that is the only point of difference in Vedanta and yoga.
No. I was just saying that, I mean, when one does it, when one practices it, it's like you just are just there, you're just centering yourself completely and detaching, and without the perception of, your physical body or whatever, like, I don't want to elaborate on it, but I'm just saying, so that's the experience of the oneness for that time being.
Correct. Which is perfect.
Yeah.
With the knowledge that we do already know now that it's temporary. So as long as it stays with us, we are fine. We don't fight. We know we are in readiness. Chala jayega, we'll have to re-practice. That's it.
Yeah.
We'll have to redo.
Yeah.
The next day again, the next day again. So in this way, it accumulates itself, forms a very strong perception, forms a very strong impression in Chittam, which is a very great carry forward.
Mm. Mm. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Divya, is that okay? Answered?
Yes, Titi. I think it was answered in the first 5 minutes only. I did not mean a switch. I just meant a path. I mean, I was not able to say it, probably articulate it. I was
Right.
meaning a path. Is there a path
That's
to
why I
it?
tell you, write your questions. If you write your questions, then all these ambiguities go away.
Yeah, I think you answered it correctly. Thank you.
Otherwise, I'm carrying that you are carrying a switch in your mind, and I will be switched off till I am able to off that switch.
No, I know there are no switches. There is nothing. You have to work towards everything you
Yeah.
get. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, fine. Thank you, everyone, and thank you. Have a
Thank you,
blessed
Niji.
day and year ahead.
Thank you, Dipti ji. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.